Hello, my name is Margaret Ajibode. I'm the STEM Positive Disruptor, and today I have a special guest called Professor Berry. She's a professor of electrical and computer engineering. Um, I'm just grateful for her to come on board today. She's a multi-award winner based on her work on making our profession more diverse. But she'll tell us more about that. She's also an author. She's just an amazing woman. You just need to listen to her conversation today. The reason why we set up this platform is to educate, raise awareness, change people's perception, and demystify what STEM is all about. That is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And basically, we want to bring the public into our domain. We want to showcase the diverse roles within the industry, but also to show make it more accessible and inclusive, because we need to make sure that more people, not just a norm, so we want people that are underrepresented within our profession to see the opportunity and see the people that look like them or look like us, to say that, look, if they can do it, I can do it too. So without further ado, I just let Professor Berry come on board and just tell us more about herself and what she's achieved.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I have been a professor of electrical and computer engineering since 2003. And I am also one of the co-founders of the multidisciplinary minor in robotics at Rose-Hulman. And we started the minor because we found that students coming out of high school, because of participation in programs like FIRST Robotics, excited about doing engineering and STEM in college. So after starting the robotics minor, another great discovery we had is the benefits in students doing multidisciplinary work. It's great for diversity of skill sets and thinking, but also bringing together people with different kinds of demographic backgrounds. So one of the most exciting things I've done as a university professor, not only starting the robotics minor, but starting the Rose Building Undergraduate Diversity Program to bring more women, minoritized, and marginalized students into degree programs such as electrical and computer engineering, computer science, and software engineering, because those are the disciplines that seem to struggle the most with that demographic. Normally, female students will go into biomedical or civil engineering, and mechanical engineering picks up a lot of students because of interest in robotics and other things. But getting students to see themselves in these other disciplines, and also getting them to working with people from other disciplines is important. The other thing that I like to share is in 2020, I co-founded Black in Engineering with Dr. Monica Cox and Dr. Tahira Reed-Smith, and I co-founded Black in Robotics with Dr. Ayana Howard and Dr. Monroe Kennedy, because another way of getting more diversity in these fields is looking outside of the college campus, but the community at large, and about how to engage people from many different backgrounds in many different ways to help them to see people that look like them in the areas that they aspire to be. Because what research has found is that a lot of women and Black and brown people will leave the discipline because they don't see role models and mentors, they don't see themselves represented, or they struggle to see how the work that they do will impact society at large. We know in engineering it does, but helping people to embrace and see that and market it so that they can understand how they can impact the world is important.
Indeed. This is so true. And, you made a good point about people seeing people who look like them, or they can then aspire to them. And sometimes, because I don't know about you, but when I started my profession, I normally was the only woman and only minority within that environment. And it's because I had a passion for what I did. It didn't really disturb me as such. But then many people come in and they feel very vulnerable in that they feel isolated. So, one of the things I do love about what you do, and thank you so much, because also one of the things you have done is, because you're an award, you've won quite a few awards, and most recently, you were awarded the Distinguished Engineer Educator Award from the Society of Women Engineers. So I know you've won quite a few, but one of the things you do is because of the way you teach, the way you use you made a statement, or you have a statement which says, I bring robotics and STEM to people, and I bring people to robotics and STEM to diversify engineering. And this is so important. So can you just expand on that? Because I know you set up a company as well in order for you to do that. So can you just
Yeah, I did. So one of the things that happened is I went on sabbatical right when the pandemic started, and I had just become a full professor. And so I was trying to figure out how to describe what I do to people. So I am a STEMinist. I do believe in bringing more women to STEM, but I also think there's some opportunities to bring more brown and Black people to STEM. So I couldn't think of a way to describe that. So I came up with Noir STEMinist as a way to describe this connection. And I think robotics is a great way to do that, because even if you're not a tech person, you kind of get excited when you see a robot, you see it moving around. Oh, that's cute. And so I think robotics is a great hook for bringing people to STEM, even those who might say, I'm in humanities, or I'm in arts, or I'm in some other field. I can talk to them about the great thing about a robot is if you tell me math, physics, psychology, sociology, there's something a roboticist does that probably aligns with something that you do. So robotics is a great way of bringing people to STEM, but also bringing the robot to people who want to do STEM, but are challenged about where they start, where they fit in, or a good entry point for them. So using this multidisciplinary tool here as an artifact, and also my research, I'm able to diversify STEM, because I can do robotics with kindergarten children. I can use a cardboard box and have them put eyes and draw circles and talk to them about the robot. I can do robotics with a graduate student. We could talk about human-robot interaction, human-computer interaction, human-robot interfaces. So the great thing about robotics is it can make connections among a wide swath of people just by scaling. But that's also a skill set that academics have to have. So by being on social media, by posting on LinkedIn, by posting on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, I'm taking my robotics out of the classroom to make it accessible and manageable to people of all demographic backgrounds. And that's how I diversify STEM. I say my motto is, my STEM is for the streets, my robotics is for the streets, because I'm not going to diversify STEM by only speaking to my college students, or only speaking at conferences, or only putting my content in journals, because you're preaching to the choir and you've already raised the threshold for who can access these things that are so important for everyone to have. Mm-hmm. So by finding ways for me to scale it, to interact and touch people in their everyday lives, I can diversify STEM. I hope that makes sense to you.
It does, because what you did also mention is that you do use poetry as well. And also, there is also the part where you use kitchen supplies to teach you.
Yes.
So can you just expand on it? Because again, I'm a STEM ambassador. We go to schools, we have events. But it's like how do you engage? And you found a unique way of engaging young people and people in the streets to be able to relate to what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's crazy. When I'm home or driving or brushing my teeth in the shower or whatever, these things just come to me. And I had a lot of people reaching out to me asking me, can you do more things for kids? I had done a survey, what kind of content would you like to see? And overwhelmingly, people said videos for children, content for children. So I'm writing some children's books on robotics. And I came up with those robot slam poetry, music and songs, because we know kids learn by singing and manipulatives and engaging, and it was by demand. So some stuff I do because it's interesting to me, and some stuff I do because people ask. The kitchen table circuits came up because one day at dinner, my then 7th grader, 13-year-old student was studying circuits at school. And as she's eating dinner, she mentions to me, my teacher tried to explain series and parallel, which is parts of electric circuits, and I didn't understand it. And we were sitting at the kitchen table, so the only thing I had there was some plastic knives, spoons, and forks. So those videos were born out of my daughter, who I needed to explain something to you, and I had to use what we had. And then it came to me that I could explain electricity with anything. I don't have to have technical topics or technical materials like showing resistors and inductors and capacitors, because that already takes some people out, right?
Very true, yes.
Right, but if I can show it with something you can grab around your house, like a soap dispenser to represent voltage or power or a reservoir or energy, then if you can connect to how to make soap come out of a soap dispenser, you can understand potential, kinetic energy, flow of charge, etc.
And did you know, you made a good point. When I think one of the things we do badly as engineers is we make our world so complex. And it's about simplifying. How do you engage the public to see what we do without putting them to sleep in so many ways? And you've shown a prime example that, look, if you do the everyday substance you have to be able to demonstrate that, because all they need is to visually see something. Oh, okay, this is how current works. Oh, okay. And you said about reservoir, and I think it's so key and so important where teachers are concerned, because sometimes teachers do struggle to teach STEM subjects, and we need to find a way to change that, flip on this. That's what we call this platform disruptor, because we want to disrupt the way the norm and bring in a media and engage more young people, because we have fun too. We're not just technical. We do have other things we do. And you're a prime example of that, because you said you use poetry, things you love, but also people's requests, and then you adapt and suit. And I think that makes a huge difference. But also, just go back to your work, because again, we're trying to showcase you're a professor, you teach electrical and computer engineering, but also there's a part where I read, and you said something about, when you talk about robotics or artificial intelligence, you need to be able to explain to your students the difference, and that there can be discriminations and things. And also you talked about, when you talk about design engineering as well, is that you need a different set, a wider range of people to be able to have an input, so you can have the best results. And can you just expand on that? Because I think it's important to understand what you do. I know you lecture that, but can you just explain it in very, very briefly in layman's terms, what you do and how you then engage your students at that level too?
Absolutely. So one thing I will mention is that, you and I are both unicorns. There's not a lot of Black women in engineering, a lot of Black women in engineering education. And I feel like I am a teacher first, then I'm an engineer, then I'm an engineering educator. So when I walk in the classroom, I'm already aware that students will not see many professors at the front of the room who look like me. So if I walk up there and I only share with them my technical skill set, technical content, the high level concepts, I'm doing them a disservice, because there's a whole background of experience that I bring to the classroom that is also extremely important for future engineers. So there's some things I need to share with them, because if they don't hear it anywhere else, they're going to hear it here today. And some of those things are part of being an engineer. Is not just your mathematics, not just your physics, not just your code, but your code of ethics, your ability to design systems that are not going to be biased against people, biased against protected classes. So you have to understand it's not always getting a product out the door. It's not always looking at the bottom line of money, but also thinking about, are you doing harm, right? Do no harm. Are you designing a system that will be biased against people of color or women or people with accents or people with disabilities, etc.? If you're going to be an engineer that designs solutions and systems to improve the world that we live in, you have to make sure that your designs and your products are doing just that thing. So I do that because sometimes as college students, they're so consumed with the grade and graduating and being an engineer that they forget, who are you doing this for? What will your work, who will it impact? And so especially when I teach freshman design and senior design, I do this by showing videos from Joy Bulamawimi and Coded Bias, or the video of the man with the dark skin who couldn't get the soap dispenser to work. or the highly pixelated images that were on Twitter that were changing everything to white faces. Them seeing what it looks like and how it can go wrong when these things actually make it to the public is important.
Indeed, indeed. And I mean, this is amazing. I do love that. You talked about ethics, and I I just want to comment, very, very brief comment. There was this article was going around. I think it was either in July or early August, about the Google engineer, about the chat. Is it the chatbots? Chatbots.
Yes.
And this is quite a big thing. And I think somebody made a comment about, look, we have to take responsibility of the things we develop. Ethics is so important. I mean, where robotics is concerned, because you're writing a program to get it to do something. And you talk about, look, always remember, who are you? Who's your end result? Who are the people that are going to make use of it? So, even though everyone's trying to shut down this person, now he's been sacked, of course, but he's actually making a good point. There is something that's happening that we know is happening, but people do not want to rock the boat, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, young people going through the education system need to really consider the end result, because we are creating, I mean, of course, we want it for the greater good, but there are also people doing things for their own end result, and we don't know how far, because technology is just evolving. I mean, you can do so many things with it, but also there are implications as well. So are you able to address that, please?
Absolutely. And in fact, I can start with the article that you mentioned earlier, that chatbot. So what they found was that the chatbot was put live on social media. I believe it was on Twitter, and it became racist and sexist within 24 hours because people started to engage with it and have it repeating racist and sexist and bigoted comments. So one of the things you have to consider when doing machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence is that garbage in is garbage out. So the type of data that you feed to these systems can cause it to become racist or sexist. There's a Wired article that came out yesterday that I'm quoted in with other colleagues that talks about how to keep robots from being racist. When really what it is how do you keep artificial intelligence from becoming biased? And the reason why engineering students and all people need to care about AI and making sure that we have ethical AI is because bias in AI can lead to injustice. And people who would be most affected by that would be people from protected classes. So the first examples of this we saw were in facial recognition, where police departments started using this faulty AI facial recognition system to arrest people for crimes that they later discovered they did not commit. So ethics and AI and being aware where bias can show up is important, because the next step is people unrealistically relying on this technology and using it that make decisions that it could affect someone's life, right? Could get someone arrested or put in jail, or somebody hurt or harmed. Another example I gave is a couple of weeks ago, that chess playing robot was playing with a child, had not been completely vetted, and it grabbed the child's finger and broke it because it thought it was a chess piece, right? So designing the AI for these systems and making sure they're fully vetted. So part of the work of Black in Robotics is saying, we need to have people like us in the room. I need to be there for the development, the deployment, the testing, so that I can speak to some of these things that maybe somebody else had not considered, right? This thing doesn't recognize brown skin. It doesn't know brown faces. We can't make this go live until it can reliably detect all of this information, because you don't know how people are going to use it. The dog that was used in the New York Police Department from Boston Dynamics, it's not autonomous. It was remote control, but Black and brown people are already concerned with bias in criminal justice. So they start to find that a robot may be used where we're not sure how the artificial intelligence on that was trained and that it's ethical. That's a concern. And that's why all people should care about these things.
Indeed, indeed. Do you know, it brings a lot. I mean, you really enlightened me. You also showed what is potentially possible, but also the importance of having a diverse team together, having a wide range of people from different backgrounds to be able to have an input in anything that's being created, especially where technology is concerned, AI, you talk about machine learning and everything else. But we need to be we have to think ahead because it's impacting us in a world where we don't want this friction. We want to be able to find a place where we can have that fair playing field for all. It doesn't matter who you
Absolutely.
are. And so I think this is so important. But because of there's so much we can talk about, but what I would like from you, because again, can you just give us 5 practical solutions in relation to where the education is concerned, talking about robotics and just in general, things that you feel very strongly and passionate about, that you will impact, that should make a positive impact, because we want to not make the complaints yes, we do know what's out there, but we want to change situations using the technology, getting more young people and people of different background into the industry, into the profession. So can you just give us 5 practical solutions?
Yeah. So I think one of them I have already alluded to. I think that multidisciplinary and diverse teams are integral. High school and college students. I tell my students all the time, when you graduate, you are not going to go work in a cubicle with a bunch of computer scientists. You have to learn how to speak the language of a lot of different people and how to interact with people who are similar and different from yourselves, because it's those diverse teams that come up with the best solutions to problems, the most unique and the best vetted, which of course, absolutely would ideally be less biased. With respect to young people, I think we have to lower the technology threshold. We have to meet them where they are. One of the other things I am currently working on is Lilybot, which is an open source academic robot for academics that people can 3D print and buy some pretty low cost off the shelf items to build robots. I think a lot of school children, a lot of schools and teachers are priced out of the market. And that's even with some of these competition teams and these programs, because the entry level fees just to get the kids to participate are so expensive. So if we can find ways to get a robot in every home, kind of like they talked about a computer in every home back when computers came out, and making it a very simple process, a very low level. Some things I do through Black in Robotics is I show some of the free online resources kids can use to engage in coding and robotics. Code.org, vr.vex.org. These are scratch.org. So these are websites that are free, where kids can go and write code and see how a robot moves around. The Robotarium at Georgia Tech. So finding ways to get children to engage in hands-on and minds-on creativity, design at all levels will then diversify and bring more of them into STEM fields. I think another big one that we talked about with Black in Robotics is making sure that Black and brown researchers and academics are involved and advised and are quoted and their work is amplified, so that you can promote more diversity in STEM and they can be involved in these solutions and technologies that are going to affect the society. So Black in Robotics has a Black in Robotics reading list. We have a member highlight, so that when people go, oh, we don't know any Black roboticists or Black computer scientists or engineers who we could consult, or we could ask them to vet our work or serve as test subjects or participants. Well, I have some things for you, right? So Black in Engineering, Black in Robotics, and then the whole Black in X movement on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram. There's no probably area now of STEAM, I'll say science, technology, engineering, art, math, and extracurricular, STEAM X, that you cannot find a community of people of color who you can consult with. Something else though, if you're going to have these communities come and help you with your technology, pay people for their intellectual property, right? I think that's also
very
important.
true.
Right. Don't ask people to speak for free. Don't ask them to consult for free. I do a lot of outreach through Black in Robotics workshops for adults and children, but we get asked to do a lot of invisible labor. I don't need more. So at some point, you have to pay people to give you their knowledge. Yeah, I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about diversity in STEM. I'm passionate about robotics, but I'm also passionate about paying my bills. Right. And
you have to be.
Right. So being able to do those things, I think we also have to get to the point where technology, and this is speaking on human robot interaction, is approachable and attainable by people of all backgrounds. We're not going back, right? We have Roomba vacuum cleaners. We have robots that cut lawns, lawnmowers. We have scubas that clean pools. So we have to find a way to make technology accessible and user-friendly and approachable so that people want to use it. All right. Alexa's in homes now. All of these things are already there. We just have to make sure they're there and can be used safely. I'm looking forward to the day I have, you know, my Rosie robot vacuuming around my house and washing my dishes. Right?
Why not?
Yeah, but to get there, I think human-robot interaction is extremely important, and looking at how people perceive robotics. Because right now there's also, you know, a lot of people who still look at movies and televisions and computer graphics and are still like, I've had children I've done workshops for who said this, I don't want to program a robot. I'm scared of the robot. It's going to kill me. The robot's going to shoot me. The robot's going to take all the jobs and nobody's going to be able to work. So being able to educate people about where robotics technology is and is not, where AI is and is not, and what's real and what's television. Right. I think all of that is extremely important because the technology is coming. We're not going back. But we need to make sure that people understand where we're going.
Indeed. You know, you made a very good point. And I think the last point as well is about educate and also alleviating that the fear factor, because really it's about new skills. We need to new skills because just the way we are moving forward, the technology is evolving and therefore requires new skills. And it's actually marrying that with what the industry is saying we need and what the education is teaching, so that the time young people of different background finish their education, they're able to fulfill those requirements as well. But you know, it's also about the ethical side of things, because I think sometimes people do not take it seriously, even though they talk about it. What they say and what they do are two different things. So you're quite right. We need people of different diverse background to be involved in the development, because if not, we're going to have another set of problems, which is not fixing, you know, it's just making things worse when it shouldn't be, because now we should be on that equal playing field, because we are as educated as anybody else. And that's so important. But you know what? I can talk with you all day, but I just want to celebrate because, you know, as I said, you're a multi-award winner. You're an author. You've written technical books. But also, you didn't mention about the love that is a romance book and it having a STEM, you know, and it's all of those things. You know, we celebrate your achievement because what you do, what you have achieved, says that to anybody of color, anybody of a different background can achieve those things as well. So, where can we find information about you? Can you just, like, I don't know, tell us so that whenever we send it out, people can know where to find you? And
absolutely, I have a couple of things. I'm going to mention 3 things based upon what you just said. Number 1 is I didn't mention a lot about autonomous vehicles, semi-autonomous vehicles such as Tesla, or these and also these autonomous vehicles that now deliver pizzas and deliver groceries. I think we have to do a better job of educating people about technology, because when you don't, there's also sometimes an over-reliance on technology that can hurt and get people killed. For example, people napping while their Tesla car was driving, and one drove into the side of an 18-wheeler because it thought it was a street sign or a billboard. So we also have to do a better job of educating people at large so that they know when they can trust and not trust technology in order to help save lives. That's number 1. Number 2, I did release my first Black women in STEM romance novel July 1st. It's Elevated Inferno, Monet's Moment, and you can find it on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. This is something else I started with my colleagues because I cannot keep saying engineering has a marketing problem. We don't see people that look like us when we Google it. And when people think engineer, they think white males with tape on their glasses and a pin pocket protector. So one way to do that is just like the kitchen table circuits and the robot slam poetry, is match some things together people are not used to seeing. And I like to say Black women in STEM are not just super nerds. They are smart, but they don't live in a lab all day. They have a family, their daughters, mothers, sisters. and they experience love and loss, right? And work-life balance is a really important concept in Black women in STEM. So I'm writing these fictional books so that people can relate and hopefully see themselves, and then also say, I could do that, right? Because I've had some students, female students as well as Black and brown students, go, you work too hard. I would never get my PhD. I don't want to be a professor because it looks really tough. So if I can now show you that it can be done and you can have it all, then maybe they could see that as a possibility. Indeed. So that's why I do what I do also with these fictional books. I actually just finished my second one last night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm a little loopy right now because I was up half the evening.
Yeah.
But I call this series First Responder Fairy Tales. And although it will have police officers and doctors and firemen in them, I like to call the people in technology are first responders. We're designing the solutions to make the world a better place and to fix problems in the world. I'm also a first responder. A Black woman in engineering is also a first responder. So that's the way I like to think about it. The best way to find me is noirestemminist.com, which is NOIRESTEMINIST.com. But you can also find me on most social media at DrCABERRY, which is Dr. C.A. Berry. And I hate to say it, but I'm now at the point that if you just Google my name,
yes, indeed.
So much comes up. I even have a Wikipedia page now. So
yes, my notes.
So yeah, I can give you all of the socials and all of that if you want to put it in the podcast, not a problem. But if you Google my name, a whole page of stuff comes up. I now turn on my Google alerts just because stuff comes out sometimes. And I'm like, what is that? Let me go check this out. Because people were emailing me or contacting me on LinkedIn about an article. And I would go, I didn't even know that article was out there. So I do that now just to make sure that I can respond and say, well, thank you for supporting me. Because I say, look at God, it's not me. Because indeed. I will never forget from whence I came. And it was from very humble beginnings.
Yes, indeed. Well, you've proven everything's possible. So yes. So thank you so much, Professor Berry. Really appreciate this. This is it's going to be a really, people hear you will know that everything is possible, but also the issues that needs to be addressed and the solutions you provided. So to me, you've done. I'm really grateful. I am truly grateful because you've shown the transition, the things that are possible, and you're now enjoying the fruit of your labor because you work, as you said, you started where you started from where you are now. It wasn't that, your history. Absolutely. And go, I'm grateful that you can come on my platform now and just have that conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So now this is Margaret Ajibode, STEM Positive Disruptor with Professor Berry. And as I said, this podcast has been set up to educate, change people's perception, raise awareness, and demystify what science, technology, engineering, mathematics is. But most important, to bring the public into our domain, to show them the diverse roles and the things we are, who we are, and people that relate to that. When children or parents are thinking about helping their children to make informed decisions about education or subjects, or STEM subjects, they know what the diverse roles are. And a prime example is Professor Berry, who is an electrical and computer engineering professor. So again, once more, Professor Berry, thank you so much for coming on board. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.